अच्छा अच्छा ठीक है यस सुदेशना am I available
Yes, ma'am.
गुड आफ्टरनून सर डॉक्टर मिटानी चाहिए सर Am I audible, sir? So please unmute, sir. अभी भी ऑडियो कहाँ से आ रहा है वो तो YouTube वाला देखिए YouTube वाला अच्छा YouTube वाला क्यों अभी भी वो आ रहा है वही थोड़ा ब्लैक में आ रहा है नहीं अनम्यूट ये म्यूट कर दिया ठीक है ठीक है ठीक है लगातार 30 सेकंड में लगातार here for Mr. Sarojkant singh. वो बोलते नहीं है ना, इसे को पकड़ लेता है।
तो अच्छा वहाँ पे Yes, I welcome Dr. Shah from Utkal University, Professor Utkal University. The survey examiner of Mr. Saroj. With your permission, is a presentation. Yes, sir. So, sir, I think you take time. As soon as sir join, you. So, after this video, present your presentation in your eyes. You will be joining online. Yes, start.
Good afternoon, professors, Mr. Singh, and my guide, Dr. Manchia. That is human factors affecting strategy and risk in complex models, and we have taken a system dynamics view. To that, let me introduce myself. I am Saroj Kant. I am mechanical engineer by graduation. Then I did my MTech in mechanical engineering from the University of Sheffield. Post that I did my MBA in finance and in economics. And also did my backend I worked in classroom group, singhs, viva, and power from which were major integrated steel plant project at Kanpur for GSTA. Recently, I joined a strategic consulting company, and during my entire professional life, I have been involved in a lot of complex projects. And in 2020, I got this opportunity to start my PhD in DeFi, and I wanted to bring my knowledge to academia, and that is what I am presenting. So, we did the outline of the thesis or the presentation is as per the chapters of the thesis, and we will start with introduction, then relevance of the research, major objectives of the research, the theories are used, how it is identifying the gap, hypothesis, methodology. So mainly this revolves around project strategy, which is very less research in academia, and also in practice people do not use project management theories. They are more in practice, and that is why this is less known. So I have tried to bring this in my research. Complexity, which is now being really researched by a lot of academics in the practice as well as the projects. And I use the system readiness method. So this is the outline of my thesis, and which I want to explain, and this is the outline of the chapters. Now, my chapter 1 is introduction. So I'll first introduce what this entire thesis is about. It tries to bring an integral view of project strategy. Strategy has been debated in business and in war. And business, you can say, borrowed a lot of these concepts from war strategy, but the business is constructed by war is more focused objectives on a specific aim, and they were short in duration, whereas these businesses are thought to be ongoing and long term. So that brings a very basic distinction between the war strategies and business. But projects, on the other hand, have a start and finish. So that brings it more akin to that of war. Also in business, we think that the strategy is a high-level plan which doesn't encapsulate all the facets of strategy. And when it comes to projects, because of the short duration, many times tactics and strategies also overlap. It brings in this distinction of the strategy. Now, the strategy has been discussed in projects as well as the corporate, and that business was usually started by Porter. The projects by their very nature are complex in nature because of various means that it serves, and this gives it with an inherent complexity. Although we will study a specific part that is dynamic complexity, and I will explain a little bit what that means, and a specific focus on human factors. And in today's times, when we are dealing with wars and what we call a book of, we come across also this disrupting artificial intelligence, which will make us think what are systems, what are human factors, and how we play. And that is where my research really focuses. What are the critical human factors impacting project strategy? We define project strategy and see how these factors really impact it. So as I said, we live in a world full of uncertainties, and that is why my research is relevant today. And the core of this is how it will help the future to apply what I have brought into academia. And as I said, it's very little research on project strategy. So that is one basic thing that my research is bringing out, and how we can manage complexity. So little bit on that I will explain. So the basic objective and scope of research is to build a theory of project management which is absent, and The project strategy part, which I'm bringing, will add on to it. Identify the critical factors from literature, what has been done. Majorly, research has revolved on project success. And what is project success has been defined by me. And what I feel, project strategy is the missing link which actually will define what we call as project success. And certainly, these factors, when it comes to specific scenarios like schedule crashing, claim settlement, dispute resolution, how do we deal with such situations and in what approach? We use a method called system dynamics, which designs and constructs all intangible and tangible aspects in stock and flows, just like a controlled open loop. So this feature is devoted itself to human factors and human factor risk and crucial to project strategy and project risk. And we will analyze how complex project can be managed in this perspective. Our industry segments are large-scale complex projects of coal and power, steel, infrastructure, these kind of projects, where I have also brought my professional experience. What the research doesn't do, it doesn't really investigate the strategy risk in business and corporates, and the project management systems and processes, we don't really deal too much into that. And the critical success factors, we limit ourselves to human factors majorly, and specific areas like information technology, drug development, this is not focus of our research. So, major theories which has been used are that of complexity. Complex adaptive systems is researched in various fields. We bring part of that. Human factors, risk personalities, biases that we find in decision making. Majorly, the main focus is on project strategy, developed by human in business, built stock in projects. ARO has brought in, I take that forward, and Sandhu's art of work. Project management, theory of production, value, the PMBOK defines a lot of frameworks, and we show that these are not really capable of handling the problems we are having in projects now, and where the frameworks really fall short. And we use a system dynamics approach to fill this gap. System thinking brings a holistic view rather than breaking down the problem into parts. So before I go deep into my research, let me explain what complexity is. Complexity lies somewhere between chaos and simple systems, and I'll show that in a bit. What you see here are some are complex, some are complicated. And this aircraft cockpit that you see, this is complex. You can say this is complex. Without the pilot, yes, it is a complicated system. And if you look at a symphony, it is really a complex system where diverse people with diverse come together. Dr.
Yes, sir. Welcome, sir.
So the history of complexity.
Yeah, good afternoon, madam.
Yes, sir, we started.
Yeah, no problem. Please continue, madam. Continue. I'm here.
Yes, thank you, sir.
So the history of complexity comes from various multidisciplinary fields, and that is why there is different research in different parts. And I bring this to, let's say, project management. So there are ordered systems which are simple, and mostly mankind has designed everything as simple systems where they are known knowns. And then we are going to unknown knowns, which makes it complex. And when we have unknowables, that is chaotic, and we are not discussing that in our research. And in between them is complicated. So many times it is a static part which we see, and we lose some synergy in that static part. And that is why we should understand complexity as a dynamic part within this structural complexity that we have. And not only approach it by breaking, but looking at the holistic view. So what you see on the left is a diagram where from the ideas or the chaos or uncertainty we have, we bring down our frameworks into simplicity, but sometimes use something in between. So if you look at the right hand side, there is a simple system or a simple problem or a simple, you can say, approach. And then there is the complicated, then it comes the complex, and then another. And if we take the symbol as solids, you can say this is semi-solid, this is liquid, and this is gaseous. And this is how we can get an analogy of where this complexity we can take advantage of. So Steve Jobs once said that when you start looking at a problem, it seems simple, but then you really understand the complexity of the problem. You don't really understand complexity of the, then you get into the problem and you find that it is complicated and you find a lot of convoluted solutions. That's the middle, that is, we stop here. But if we go to complex, that is when he says we get a beautiful solution. So he was actually hinting that the future world will look at complexity very closely. So structural complexity can be solved by simplifying. It will have interdependent parts, number, constraints, and objectives. But when there is a nonlinear feedback and accumulation and interdependence, like we had in the static, we cannot do it just by breaking it. We have to see the whole. We can amplify this complexity to get value, and that we can handle with multiple scenarios, flexibility, and navigate through. So that is all about complexity. The other areas that I covered are human factors and project strategy, and then system dynamics is applied to go through it. So this is an overall view of my literature survey, where we have seen that the field of strategy has been influenced by business, and Porter in 1885 its competitive advantage opened the doors to the business. And then we had I'll be giving this project strategy, the elements of goal, guideline, pattern, action. Silverman told about remote sensing and contextualism. So there is a mental part of strategy and there is a physical action part. So this is very well brought in by Roman, where he says the kernel of the strategy will have three very specific elements: diagnosis, guiding principle, coherent set of actions to carry out this policy. If any of this is missing, it's not a strategy. We are talking of simply ends. Now in project strategy, K. Arthur's work brings two elements: degree of project's independence, which I call autonomy of the project, and number of stakeholder organizations, which I call the influence of stakeholders. So I bring in the stakeholder theory in K. Arthur's view. He talks about four strategies: obedient servant, independent innovator, strong leader, and flexible moderator, based on these 2 by 2. But what we also see that this is like Porter static view, and we need a dynamic view of this, and that is when we look at it at autonomy and influence of stakeholders, we get that part. Now if you look at the goal, guideline, pattern, action, and this are very different. We try to synthesize these two given our research. So how do we do that? So Sam Fuller's Art of War has said there is a heaven and earth of strategy. So when we look at Winsberg, 5 P's, plan, position, ploy, pattern, perspective, we see that Winsberg's position and perspective is similar to that of the heaven. When the project manager or general in the war drives the battle before the battle happens, and when he plans the battle, when ploy, pattern, and the position comes in. Now, if you look at Rumen's diagnosis forms the heaven, whereas the other parts, that is guiding policy and actionable steps, comes to the earth. And we will try to see how the other human factors gel into, as we discussed. So we bring in the salience model of stakeholder theory, which defines how the stakeholders are categorized as government, expected, and definitive. And this will gel into K. Arthur's theory. And then the human factors, which we have found in literature, like the project manager's qualities, team traits, client traits, how these come and amalgamate and synthesize into this framework, we will show. So the stakeholder theory and Gordon's research power says that most of social sciences has dealt with money, but it should deal with power. And what are the forms of power? And organizations are like an organism, and they, like in biology, have their own nature. And this is what complex adaptive systems are all about. And with this, we see that we formulate an intuitive formulation of strategy as that of decision task, stakeholders, influence, and time. And this is very keen to what we call a stock variable in the system dynamics. So we bring together this, And this is the salience model, where the 7 types of stakeholders are defined, majorly into government and dominant, discretionary, dependent, dangerous. Now, some stakeholders have 2 of these, power and urgency, or urgency and legitimacy, and all 3 they become a definitive stakeholder. And if we define another one as competent, who are competent to become definitive, then we bring sustainability into this one. Now, in Harvard, there was a research done on is management a technology, and that is where we argue that project management is also technology, where skills and intangibles defined as technology, and project strategy is the science behind it. So, if we look at the IC engine, if you take that as technology, the auto cycles is the science behind it, and we say strategy or project strategy is the science behind project management as technology. So these are some of the basic research found in complexity, and then projects risk, what we have briefly shown here, and then human factors. Now we go to something about the so whatever is first public, okay. So, in the research methodology, we are portraying the different objectives, our research questions, and hypotheses. So, the objectives of our research are to find the critical human factors in a complex project, to ascertain the impact of these factors on project strategies for various scenarios, and develop a system dynamics model to address complexity. So the research questions are, what is the project strategy? What are the human factors which affect project strategy and risk? And do human factors impact project strategy more than system factors? So how can we study the impact of dynamic complexity of project strategy? And these are our hypotheses which come from these research questions. Now the research gaps that are found, we define that as what is project strategy is a gap in the literature. Human factors will influence project strategy presents a research gap and complexity handling in projects, and a system timing approach to address this. So the constructs that we found in the research are errors due to human communication, and these are the various works done. Flexibility of project manager, trust between client and contractor, decisive client's experience, support of senior management, contract handling with project manager, effective feedback, reputation of project manager, charisma of project manager, and then stress, engagement of project manager, anger bias. So we are altogether found 23 such variables which are majorly researched in and then we design a questionnaire to encapsulate all these factors, and we divide it into what called perspective of project management, where the factors are divided into team, task, system, leader, human factor, transaction, business. We take that framework and we define team, leader, and human factors as human factors, and system, transaction, business as system factors. So system factors will be those like systems in a project, schedule like MS project or Primavera, contractual terms. These are all system factors, and then project factors, the human factors are something that we define in the next slide. So this is our methodology, where we have taken we have taken the data from the Ministry of Projects, and the complex projects have been analyzed, and we have shown that a sample size of 263 satisfies this sample set. So this is the method that we use. We first identify the human factors, and through the question, we first preliminary research assessment and finding the map. Then we deep dive into the literature and filter the databases and the most used variables selected. Then for focus interview, we filter from the 23 to 16 variables, and then we do a pilot survey. After the pilot survey, we take the expert interview and show that it is not biased. And then we do a questionnaire survey. And from that questionnaire survey, we do a exploratory analysis and confirmatory analysis. And from there, we do the system dynamics model. So these are the 23 variables which are then filtered out to 16 variables. And these are the results of the survey. So we find that most of the respondents were of the obedient servant category, where they are dependent on their head office or seniors to take decision. But when they give them scenarios, they actually show strong leader or risk-taking attitude. And we find that human factors impact 51% from what the data says, and system factors 49%. Now we had done this survey maybe 10 years back. I'm sure you would have found another kind of result. And if you do it in future, I'm sure that AI and systems will dominate, and that will bring again the importance of human factors into the focus. So after this, this is the results of the main survey. So we find that the conjugate alpha is not suitable because of the non-unidirectionality of the survey, and we use omega, and we find that this is the internal consistency is maintained. Then from there we do the factor analysis, and we find that there are 7 factors, of which the first is project strategy itself, which is defined by goal, ploy, plan, and direction, which we found in literature. And the second has project manager qualities and the negative relation of feedback by project team, which we call effective feedback. And this we call the strong leader, as per KRO. It is getting into the strong leader aspect. And the other factor which are found from the factor analysis, senior management, contract handling, and project manager, and this is very key to the obedience survey. So we say that the underlying human factors of what KRO has shown in autonomy of the project and stakeholders' influence are these 4 factors. And then there is a factor of trust and communication, which is deeply linked, and this is, we say, another factor that impacts projects. Then we go to the confirmatory analysis, and we find again that there is a specific BA1, that is the project strategy, and then positioning as per KROs are the strong leader, obedient servant, innovative leader, and flexible moderator. And there is a medium of trust and communication. So it is confirmed that these underlying factors do lie there. We also find a very interesting thing that goal is not influenced by any of these factors, and hence we call it the emergent principle of what we say in system thinking. Ploy is or maneuver is impacted by strong leader, obedient servant, flexible moderator, and stress is more significant when you do the maneuver. Whereas in plan, we don't find flexible moderator impacting, and in direction, also flexible moderator doesn't impact, whether strong leader and obedient servant do matter there. So these were our findings from the data analysis. And then we have synthesized this into our overall, where we have shown the underlying human factors do impact this structure that we have given. And the hypothesis testing showed that human factors do impact project strategy. However, while crashing a project schedule, system factors will be more importance, and hence human factors were shown as having less importance. Contract handling has significant impact, human factors have significant impact. Human factors have significant impact on client direction. Project management qualities have impact on project strategy. Trust between contractor and client has impact on project strategy. Only team traits were found to have less impact on project strategy. And that is where it is interesting to do further research, that we all know that team is very important, but what the data reveals is that if the other side is the team traits fall in place. And similarly, client traits have influence, and errors due to human also have influence. Then after our study, we go into the system dynamics module. So this is our system dynamics model, where we have taken three parts. One is the project execution, which is the heart of Zanzu, and the project strategy, which is the mental state, and the project cash flow. So we see that in the project execution, we have a lot of feedback loops which impact the project strategy. Motivation, productivity, all this impact, and we have tried to encapsulate that in our research. I don't want to post. Actually, it is so this is the system dynamics model for AIO's stakeholders and control of projects, which we call influence of stakeholders. So number of approvals has been taken as a measure, and we see how this impacts the project strategy. And then we see how it impacts the cash flow. So all these three aspects have been taken into consideration in the system dynamics model. So after this model is prepared, we try to see how it impacts the project cash flow. And we see that for the 0.9 project management independence, we have a net present cash flow and negative and decreasing cash flow. Whereas when we increase this to 1.380, it shows that there is a positive cash flow all throughout, and there is a gap funding which is needed during a certain time period, that is 1.3 to 2.5 years. Again, when we further increase the independence to 1.4 from 1.3, we see that there is a substantial increase in cash flow and net income, which shows that there is value addition due to independence. So, when in your schedule crashing, we see that what the amount that was required, that is around 3 million, changed to around 10 million due to schedule damage, is similar to what we face in reality. And hence we see that if we increase the average duration of competent stakeholders from 15 to 22, there is a decrease in this funding requirement, which again is similar to what we face in actual reality. There are other views that we get from this model, and we can analyze it in further detail, and for practitioners it will be very useful. So coming to the conclusions, what we find that most respondents came from large projects and had handled complexity at a high index. However, the environments were obedient servant, and risk profile was risk averse. However, when we change the environment, the risk profile swings from relational to transactions. When the questions were on project risk, schedule risk, cost, risk management, contractual risk, value creation, that is margins basically, and project condition, system factors were weighed more and in transactional category the most. However, when procurement risk, client side, it was system factors which were weighed, but when we brought them to sales perspective, they gave importance to human factors. So definitely there is a bias and there is a environment which influences people how they respond to risk. This is what our research brings up. When the questions were project success, client satisfaction, project strategy, we found that the human factors were given much more importance. When the environment was that of financial risk and dispute and distress, human factors were given more importance. We also find that project management qualities came out to be one of the most dominant factors from the research. Now, project strategy of KRO divided itself into 4 categories of. This is what we call project strategy. Strong leader, obedient servant, flexible, moderate, innovative leader, and it is positioned with high autonomy and number of stakeholders. We have found the underlying factors for strong leader. It is project manager quality and effective feedback, leadership. Obedient servant, it is senior management support and contract handling. Flexible moderate is flexibility of project manager and organized project team. And innovative leader is decisive client and engagement of management. So these all underlie these strategies which gives it the dynamic. And this again relates to goal plan law of Winsborn. Further, we can also plot into the personality of the project manager, which can be cautious, dominant, influence, and support. We can also categorize into the client environment of ideal to cult or deals, transactional or emotional. So this is the way we do research and how this can make us decide the project strategy, whether we are transactional or emotional. And as we get into the world of artificial intelligence, I'm sure that emotional and people-driven segment will be highly influenced by human factors. So the major challenges that I faced during my research is that the knowledge of project strategy was limited, so I had to inform people about it, and all the experts could sense it. Then, which statistical method should I apply? So there, the university my guide and to identify the critical variables. And to convince experts to get into interview, this was also a challenge, but finally I could overcome. We have to educate also the experts on system dynamics, because this is something that people don't know about. So we have to educate before the interviews. And to balance my time and work, this was another challenge I had faced. And the university and I were really helpful in that. In the future research, what I plan to do is test the system dynamics model with a real project and see how this weightage of the latent, expected, and dominant stakeholders can actually influence project strategy. The 3D model that I show has the overlapping subject of requisite variety which you can study through cybernetic principles. These are some of my publications which I have done with, which are the Scopus Index. I have also done number conferences, and one was there with my grant on a diversity this month, where I presented this thesis in the doctoral colloquium. Some awards also I received during this time from St. Kabir Institute. Some of the questions that were asked by examiners. So, one was that hypothesis, there was a difference. So, one was in the pilot stage and the other was the main, so that was the thing. And D1 is described in a different section. So, we have incorporated that. And then there was this question on 23 and 60 variables, so we will filter through a focus interview. Then there are other questions on how to differentiate human and systemic factor in organization level. So I think these are also, most of these are answered in the presentation. Thank you. This is all from my side. Questions from the examiners.
What do I say? It's a very nice presentation. Very, very nice. Very nice work also. lot of like hard work you have put into this, and thanks to your like time, like he has very nicely slides also managed so nicely to put all the figures and everything. So it's really a great job. And the topic when I got the questions to it, I was very happy that human factor that fascinates me a lot. Human factor is very critical. Like to take care of somebody's like we can't judge ourselves. How can we judge somebody and also human factor is so different organization. So that was very nice. Like I have gone through the thesis, phase by phase. It is so nicely planned, starting from objective and the hypothesis you have taken, the research question you have asked, and the type of tools you have used. Everything. It is very nice. So that is why I can't say anything about the topic. But like what fascinates you, like to take this topic?
And actually, when I started my topic was, I had noticed the topic of system and risk impacting complex problems. Because during my career, I have seen that complexity is something we all try to handle. But when we try to do more in a process-based manner rather than discussing with people and all, which actually doesn't work. So this was there, and then Dr. Hariharan was initially the guide, and he said, this is very generic, so why don't you use something? And when I read, and I proposed human factors, he said, yes, this is what you should take. So that is how the human factors came. And as artificial intelligence is coming, I think this is one area where it is becoming very important.
Because the age of fully, like in IoT and AI and all things, so here we can't say that anything is real, that is real, that is a human factor.
In fact, when I was doing MBA, one of the professors said that you have assets and liabilities.
Yes.
So which side do you think the human factor? And we don't account for it even in the business, but we impact it so much. So I think do access to liabilities can bring in this impact of employee motivation, trust in the system. I think that is the basic where my motivation man started from.
Now, with why I have given this, like when you were talking about knowing about the human factor, like here we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, we have 5, but here taking something will be always like we answered or will be like reacted or given feedback differently. So nobody is saying like other. So how, what are the different, let's say challenges or limitations or the also implications of all these, like in terms of the industry wise, like what are the major impact is and
So,
financial?
this can be actually approached from a different aspect. So, everything has a general and a specific. So, like, there will be something general about us, maybe our backgrounds. But then there will be specific traits and skills we have, and that is where the value comes. So, now I work with a strategy consulting firm, which was on this aspect called requisite. So, it says that when the systems requisite variety is more than that of the environment, that is when it is sustainable. That is why in India we see there is so much diversity, the requisite variety is usually available. Like for example, I am from Odisha, my professor is from Bihar, and we really value this very if we are from the same state we know. So I think this is one aspect which can be researched in further detail. This is my thought on question.
Because what will happen, the system, like when you organize a micro level, very critical in terms of system and all. So in that case, due to some reacting variables and all in the micro level. So here, how it can manage those things, like any human factor and also project risks, and we explain through also the like you can say system and all those things. So how it can say.
So, ma'am, see everything the find some human factor which we want to observe. For example, if we say skills of the person, if we can define the skills and monitor how to do that, I think that will give us the scientific way of moving forward. This is my point.
Okay. So, sir, actually, can you ask me what is the difference between human element and human factor.
So, ma'am, you such what I do is human factors will be seen as an error or the mistake that a person does in a factory, and this brings in risk. That is how it has been perceived. But there is another aspect like leadership and
Security and also.
yeah, security also. So that is the safety aspect, and then there is the soft skill or the emotional aspect. So I think human factors as both.
And protections also.
Also. And for example, if you take, let's say, contract handling, it's very technical and system based. There is a skill of the contract management. So there are some mixed type of variables also will go over them. Whereas planning is very systematic and very systematic. But there is a flank that those skills comes in. So majorly system, but then it's an overlap of our human also. And I think when I mention the stakeholders, it is not very doubtful that if AI becomes stakeholder in the future, you never know. And AI will be that being fine. But at the moment, that is not the word. So I think stakeholder can be thought of as a human factor.
So do you feel like you have done so well in this area and it can be a great contribution? Everywhere for the industry side because nobody understands humans.
Yeah.
Nobody has the patience also.
So
When you are doing so many things.
So, most of the parties begin the are all delayed. What is the reason? We don't find the reason because we don't manage it properly. I think this kind of approach will solve it. So recently I have been associated with the strategy consulting firm, which brings in the knowledge of cybernetics, which is basically human science. So they will not solve it through AI. They will use AI to see how this requisite variety, as we say, can be brought into a team and improve projects.
So in the professional HR, he can also guide us. So he has done a very good job. Like I am really impressed. Lot of hard work, nice research, and also paper published very so really I am impressed. Like your presentation, the confidence, the way you have put into the like slide and nicely, everything is very good. So you deserve this particular abilities. So sir, yes. Yes, you just said, and you can ask your questions. You just said.
Dr. Vinci, are you there, sir? And she
Yeah, madam, good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Yes, your comment, sir. Your question, sir.
I think the efforts put in by the research scholar is appreciated. And during my review of the thesis, I have given some comments. And I wanted to know that in what way the research scholar has addressed those issues, if he can throw some light on that.
Sir, these are the questions. Left side. Oh.
Yeah, please go ahead.
So, sir, one question was that there was some typographical error, so that I have corrected. Then, on the hypothesis, there were two different nomenclatures. So, one was for the pilot survey, the other was from the main survey. Although it was not required in the pilot survey to do, but we had put some hypothesis. So, that was the query. So, the internal consistency among 23 variables. So, we had filtered to 16. So, we showed that the omega test was done to ascertain this internal consistency. Then, sir, the page number, this DV1 and DV2 were asked. So, DV1, yes, sir.
So, please continue. I can hear you. Yes.
Yes, sir. So DV1 was the goal and DV2 was the ploy of the dependent variable. Then page 5, 126, 7 factors and in 6 factors. So actually there was a image in the image error was there, but there was also typographical. So it is 7 factors only. In factor analysis, only 13 variables and there is 20. So actually there are 16 variables which are filtered from this 23 to expert interviews and amount of database search. Then so page 4 132 H3 to H10 where is H1. So this was appearing in another page. So now we have collated it in the same page all the hypotheses. Ensure all references are mentioned. So we have checked this.
So regarding the question number 6, you had 23 variables, right? But when I was going through your thesis, it is only 13 variables are there. So what happened to those 10 variables?
So not 13, sir. It is 16. So
16.
16, yeah. So 7 were eliminated first through a ranking of the number of research done in academia, and then through a focus interview of experts. So we further shortened it to 16 variables.
So in your survey, I mean, in your research, have you found out that any of the variables are not coming under any of the factors?
What we have categorized are 7 clusters. So most of them came under some one or the other clusters. Sir. These 16.
Are there any overlapping?
Sir, we couldn't. I didn't find any overlapping as such.
Okay. And regarding in the initial stage, how many responded have you targeted?
Sir, I had targeted around 900, but I could get response from around 300 something, and then somewhere incomplete, so it drilled down to 263.
So how did you manage those non-responded? Any
So
thought on that?
mostly, sir, it was an online survey questionnaire that I prepared on Line Survey, and it was a multiple choice and Likert scale based questionnaire. So that is how it was managed, mostly online. And expert interviews, those ways are face to face.
And can you tell me that in what way your, I mean, research is going to contribute? So two theoretical implication and two managerial implication, if you can tell me.
Sir, so managerial implication number 1, using a system dynamics view, the intangibles, as I said, can be monitored in a project, and we can leverage the complexity to get value. This is a manageable implication, I can say. So along with the present methods of waterfall or a drop down schedule that we do, we should have a system dynamics model to assist it, and this can be done with the tools available today. Theoretical, I would say, sir, there was literally very little work on project strategy. That of KR2 is the major work, and I have developed on that. So that is a major contribution, I would say. And second is give it a formation of a stock variable in the system dynamics model. So these are the two theoretical ones, I would say. Another one is the integral view that I presented on project strategy and how these human factors come into this integral view.
Okay, when it comes to, for example, I'm a reader of your thesis. So how it is going to help me in my research?
Pardon, sir? Can you repeat the question?
Let's say I'm a reader of your thesis. I'm a research scholar.
Yeah.
In what way it is going to help me if I want to get some benefit out of a thesis?
So there is a section of future research. One can do future research on that, and the contributions which I have done in the field, practical field and theoretical field, that is also mentioned in the contributions part, sir.
And one more thing is, for analysis, you have used R or spaces.
R.
You have used R.
Yes, sir.
Is that R Studio?
R Studio, correct, sir.
R Studio. So, what is the future? What is the forward next step for your thesis? What you are going to do?
Sir, I will like to test it in some practical project when the model can be used, and also, if possible, publish it somewhere.
So far, how many publications you had with your research in only journal, not anywhere else?
Sir, journal, I had published around 30. Two of them were in Scopus Index.
So I think by taking care of all the suggestions given by the examiners and your guide and everyone, if you consider, then probably you can look for publishing maybe some other, like maybe in a or any ABS related journals.
Surely, sir. Surely, sir.
That will give you more mileage, because at the end of the day, your thesis is I have definitely go through thesis. Definitely, it is a good one, but very highly rated journal. Na? That will give you more mileage.
Right, sir. Right, sir.
So I wish you all the best, and thank you so much, everyone present there. I think all the best to you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Now, the floor is open to sir.
No,
That time you were asking.
Some KYC was what is the risk factors, because all these things revolve around that only. What is the risk factor?
So, sir, in mind, sometimes you can categorize risks separately. But
And what are the risk factor on a study? There is so many things.
yeah, so one is contract risk, that is schedule risk, cost overflow, that is cost risk, and dispute management. These are the different risks I have captured.
So I would say it's a very nice topic. And also he has done nice some more applications and we also
Not a question, but just but also a small question. How do you think this is going to help us with future solutions? Your complete work.
So, sir, one field which can develop is that of systems thinking. That is definitely where my work can help. The other will be cybernetics. So, I have done very little work on that, but I came across it during the last 2-3 months when I started with this new company. And cybernetics is nothing but control and communication. And how we can do that with people. That is the science all about. So, there was this scientist called Stafford Beer who developed this thesis and applied it in the Chile province for policy making. But then somehow the then president was assassinated by the CIA and he comes back to UK. And then this German scientist called Freud Hunting has done a fabulous job on this. So I think that is a big area where people can research and this can help us.
What are your suggestions? Basically, can you just research you?
I think one is that the model that I developed in system dynamics that can be tested. So a physical test in a live project, that can be a work that can be done by any scholar. That is one. And second is I have given a 3D view of the environment of how the personality and the system variables can be structured into a project. So that can be another study. So that can be. So mainly, if you know AI is impacting, so how would you include AI in your strategy? That is very big. So I think that is a big area.
Disruptive AI. So how this disruptive AI would be actually implied in your whole course of research action?
So, sir, my research is mainly human factors. So people are giving more importance to AI process, and that is where the human factor is getting neglected. And we find so many issues. For example,
Excuse me.
Yes, sir.
Rumna madam is there?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Madam, can I leave with your permission?
Discuss.
Can I leave the meeting with your permission, madam? Because I have a different engagement now.
Yeah.
Discuss.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, thank you, madam. Thank you, madam. Thank you so much.
So we can declare him as awarded with your permission.
Yeah. Yeah, madam. No issue.
Okay, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
So your work is perfectly fine. We all are very happy, and I hope that your research work is really going to help the future researcher and the readers and the students and the society and the industry. So this is all great. Congratulations to you.
Thank you, sir.
And
We can declare now.
we can just
Yes, I declare for your best presentation and hard work, like whatever you have put into your nice research also. So definitely it will be a good example for all the researchers, and it is a very upcoming area also. So lot of congratulations. So I can declare him as Dr. Sarojkant.
Philosophy, the whatever philosophy is how we conquered upon you to become.
So also, I will also congratulate on the exam, like he has added very nicely. Really, everything is
In
very.
fact, we had another guy talking earlier and maybe that sir so nicely handled the transition. That was a big boon to me. Otherwise, I feel that.
So you must really okay.
Yeah, sir, we have to go from Dr. Initially, sir was so far, so sir.
Yeah, start, sir.
That would be.
Declare Sarojkant. Yes,
consider a prepare for examination and getting the reports from both of the external and further area ESC.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Great. Thank you.
yes, sir.
All right.
And secret.
He was here to like name also. Very nice. So,
It's better that with 3 expressions, she has changed the name. They almost like
Excellent.